Ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us on the show Mr. Manoj Agarwal, the Managing Director of Kanpur Plastipack. The second generation entrepreneur, he has been leading the company's operation for over 4 decades. He is a past chairman of the Plastics Export Promotion Council and is a member of its committee for over 2 decades. Also been the past president of the Indian Flexible Intermediate Bulk Containers Association. Manojji, a very warm welcome to the show Insights with Nidhi Varma.
Hello, everybody, and nice to be on the show, Nidhi. Thank you for calling me.
My honor, sir. Sir, you are a management postgraduate from BITS Pilani. I remember from my engineering college REC days, which is now NIT, we used to go to your fest, Oasis. I remember those days very fondly. How has the formal education helped you in business, sir?
Brilliantly, and I always attribute my 5 years that I spent at Pilani to what I am today. I'm a firm believer in quality education, not education. And by mentioning Oasis, you seem to have revived some very strong memories because the first Oasis was done by our batch in 1973. So, yeah, formal education is very important.
Okay, I agree with you, sir. Your journey from the jute laminations with bitumen to now being one of the top 5 packaging converters in India, manufacturing in the industrial packaging space, the 50 kg bags, moving into bulk packaging, FIBCs. What a beautiful journey, sir. Please share your key learnings from
So,
this.
our first extrusion line in 1971 was for a capacity of 25 kilograms an hour. And I hope viewers are listening to this. That's barely 10 tons a month. We now process 2,000 tons a month. That is the journey. Paper packaging, jute bags were all innovative issues that came up on the way, primarily to keep yourself diversified and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. A key learning from this journey is that always remain alive to your surroundings and be very quick to adapt to what the market needs. So we imported this Japanese machine for paper bags, quickly found that the market doesn't want it. We ran it for about 4 or 5 years and we quickly had to jettison it. So adaptability is a very, very key feature of a long journey.
Okay. What are your main takeaways from your full cycle of evolution of packaging, sir, for the young entrepreneurs who will draw inspiration from your journey?
Primarily an awareness of modern technology. Technology has moved fast, particularly in plastic extrusion, in downstream products of plastics. Plastics is a product of the future. Being in plastics, I'm a firm believer of the present and of the future, irrespective of what the government wants to make us believe, and we'll come back to that a bit later. Uh, uh, Absorption of technology is something that youngsters are very smart at, and that's an important aspect of our journey as well, where we have kept on self upgrading in equipment, in machines, and modernization of equipment that we process.
Okay. So you export across to more than 30 countries worldwide. What are the challenges you face and what is your USP based on which you have overcome these challenges?
So our first export was in 1987. And I take you back at a time when there was only snail mail, no emails, no faxes also. It used to take me 6 months to set up a 1 week tour program to Europe. And we used to actually do business across the table. I used to actually book orders like a traveling salesman. The world has moved forward, of course. And if you can't conclude an order in the next 2 hours, then you've actually lost it. Um, yes, exporting is a very, very exciting journey. As a first mover in the country, and in 87 in our product group, 50 kilogram PP sacks, we were one of the first to start from the country. Um, convincing Europeans and Americans in 87 was very difficult, practically impossible. And nobody would believe that you could even manufacture plastic products, forget export it. Today, you are the first choice. India is, amongst many European countries, the first choice of sourcing. That is the journey for you.
Absolutely. The taste of the fruit is the eating, sir. Your policy changes, sir, which you would advocate for the Indian processors to grow manifold.
I think you are hitting a raw nerve, and that's practically a different session altogether. There are too many to enumerate here, and for all its excitement about ease of doing business, I think we rank way below what the world needs. It's a very difficult journey, and life for an entrepreneur is very difficult in our country. I just don't want to touch upon policy changes because it would be a 2-hour discuss, which we can't address here. But suffice to say, we have a long way to go.
Understood, sir. Understood clearly. Technology-wise, where India stands in FIBC, sir? What feature innovations and developments you foresee in this sector and the other bulk packaging sectors?
FIBC is probably right at the top. FIBCs is, along with pharmaceuticals and the information technology sector, a world leader in India. We represent almost 60% of the global trade in FIBCs. We are the #1 exporting nation to the USA, the #1 to the EU. We overtook China to the USA 3 years ago. Probably, again, one of the very few industry segments that we have beaten China in USA, which is such a huge challenge. It's a labor-intensive industry, and therefore, we have an edge. And it all goes to the credit of the Indian entrepreneur that they have leveraged that extremely well. They have.
So the FIBC producers have done India proud. You were never into captive blown film production, sir. What made you drive into this backward integration?
Not really. We are still not into blown film. We do have a plan for making liners, which is more for captive consumption, large liners to be used for the FIBCs as an inner liner for the FIBCs. So it's not really a blown film division as such. No, it is not. We still remain confined to the bulk packaging industry segment as such. Yeah.
Okay, focus there. Any further expansion plans, Manojji, in the pipeline?
Yeah, we have just completed an expansion 2 years ago, a greenfield project about 20 miles from where we are in what we call Kanpur Dehat. So that was a 100 crore investment, and that has just been completed with huge capacity additions. It's a world-class, state-of-the-art plant, fully certified for food-grade manufacturing. All modern systems of safety, hygiene, sewage treatment plants, water harvesting, everything has been taken care of at that factory in order to meet global standards. I think now is the time to rest a bit and work and consolidating that what we have, and let the next 6 months ride over, and let's wait for the vaccine or the drug to come, and then think of something new.
Fair enough, sir. आपने कानपुर की बात करी. I've not been to Kanpur, but we are waiting for the lockdown to finish, or फिर very excited to see the new factory that you have. Coming to Kanpur, sir, it has an unforgettable contribution to the Indian freedom struggle, birthplace of great Hindu literaries, and one of North India's major industrial centers with a lot of educational facilities and defense establishment also. But seeing from your business, do you see any constraint by being in Kanpur?
So that's an interesting question, Nidhi, because why did we come to Kanpur in the first place in 71? That was primarily because in those days, what we called HDP bags, the 50 kilo bags, the main market was the fertilizer industry. Cement was a very, very small industry at that time. Kanpur had one of the country's three or four fertilizer units that at that time owned by ICI, the British conglomerate. So our factory was like a stone's throw from the fertilizer factory. That was what the decision-making process was. In the 70s, Kanpur was a major industrial center. We were the number 5 city in the country at that time in terms of industrial wealth, in terms of population, etc. It was also the Manchester of the East,
I was
huge
coming to
textile
that.
industry, apart from the ordnance factories. That is how we came here. Having come here, we chose to stick to Kanpur. We so the journey from Kanpur and entering into exports we thought would be difficult. If anything, COVID has given us a great lesson. We were probably the only unit in the country which never faced a labor migration issue. And the month of June gave us a record production. Britannia was not the only company in the country which did very well. Our company too has done extremely well in the first quarter. But it all depends on how you handle your people. And Kanpur has never been a challenge.
I think so. That comes as such a nice thing to hear, because everyone in the country has faced labor challenges. So it's music to the ears to see that labor and your industry being so labor incentive, actually that become an asset rather than
Kanpur actually became an asset for us in this situation.
wonderful.
Always was. Even earlier, without COVID, Gujarat and Karnataka has always worked on migratory labor. In UP, we never had to do that. And that kept on with us. And we stuck to Kanpur because we thought that labor ki hamo kabhi mushkil nahi hogi.
How nice to hear, sir. What are your views on the Indian plastic exhibition space, sir?
Well, I have been marginally associated with Plast India, both as a committee member, as a member of the exhibition committee for 3 editions. Extremely good. I am not a very big fan of digital exhibitions. To tell you frankly, I may be living in an old world. I don't think that is a substitute by a long shot. Exhibitions are not only to display your products. Exhibitions are a media to interact physically with people and build relationships. At least in our business, that is an important aspect of the building block of the business is having a strong relationship with the customer. That cannot happen without a physical meeting in an exhibition. I'm sure physical exhibitions will come back with a bang. More people like me roam around. It will be nice to talk on TV that we are going to do a digital marketing exercise on exhibitions. We'll do a walkthrough, a lot of nice software. It's not the same thing. It's not.
I totally agree with you, sir. So what is the main edge that the third generation brings in? Shashank, who've been we seeing very active.
Oh, that's been brilliant, absolutely. He qualified as an engineer from Nottingham 10 years ago. He's now with me for 11 years now. 1st of August is going to be 11 years. You see, one of the good things about this younger set of kids who, especially those who studied abroad, they have a strong sense of aggression. Many of them haven't seen the bad times. Many of them haven't grown with the business. Many of haven't seen the crisis that a lot of us of our generation went through in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So they don't carry baggage. Besides being techie savvy, besides being knowing about the world, at least in our case, what Shashank has brought to the business is something that at his age, I was never even close to that. So I would say fantastic.
Wonderful, sir. We are looking forward for the third generation to raise the bar high. What is the abiding value, sir? One abiding value which the three generations of the Agarwal family have laid as a strong foundation. That is their guiding light.
Oh, yes. Three things, if I could enumerate. Investment in human resources. I'm a firm believer in that. And whenever a debate takes place on this, and we are one of the companies which are probably having a higher percentage of salary wages as compared to our peer group, is largely because unless you have good people, you can't have a good company. Adaptability to technology. And even my father was very quick to react to that. To give an example from my industry, in 1984, we were the first company in India to import circular looms. Now, circular looms is a basic machine for our industry today. And, uh, and um, buying a cast film die for manufacturing flat tape on an extrusion line in 86, importing 4 circular looms. He had that vision. And over the years, we have continued to do that. The kind of money that we ended up spending at our new manufacturing facility is absolutely nobody's business. Uh, Only to ensure that um, technology has precedence over anything else. The third thing is building customer relationships. I'm a firm believer in that. And in our highly competitive industry, where over the last 20 years, when I started FIBCs in 2000, that's 20 years ago, we were about 10 or 12 units who were manufacturing it. Today, you can count over 100 of them. I'm still dealing with some of them over the last 20 years. I haven't lost those customers. Um, and that comes out of uh, building trust and making sure that your customer is a partner, not a customer. I would say these three things primarily. Yeah.
So beautiful, sir. You have actually brought the three generations. जिसको बोलते हैं आपने हमें तर्थ दे दिया अपने गाइडेंस से. Please share some of your most cherished learning lessons in life, sir, not for business, so that our viewers can learn from them. And some of them who are facing difficulties because of the pandemic are able to take motivation.
So that's another very difficult question to answer, but an interesting one. And we have used the word difficulties, so cherish life. Our company went through a very bad period from 1987 to 1997. That 10 years, a decade, we became a sick unit. That is the modern version of an NPA. And sorry, it's the older version of the modern NPA. We were registered with BFR and we came out of it. Those 10 years were probably one of the toughest that anyone can experience. We were a young family and I was professionally qualified and I had no reason to stick to the company. I could have walked out and found a wonderful job myself with my background, but we had to fight it through. So the one lesson that I would like to give if anybody is listening to this and facing difficulty is to have patience and fight it out. Patience is the buzzword in this case. Whatever goes up comes down. The world is not going to fall apart. Whatever the doomsday and the doomsayers say so, there'll be a life to live beyond the pandemic. Be prepared for that life. And I can assure you that those who can scrape through the next 12 months, 10 months will be winners. And well, yes, it's a problem. The pandemic is a problem. We are losing lives. We are falling into sickness. It is just one of the problems that we have to face. And learning to face a problem in life is the biggest lesson that anyone can get. If youngsters are learning it today, they'll come out far stronger tomorrow. Indeed.
So I'm so happy I reached out to you for this session, and your words of wisdom, which have come through lifelong of experience, sir, personally in business as well as in your own life, are going to at least give a lot of our viewers even one lesson that they can take, sir. It is worth the while. I express my deep gratitude for having you share your experience and your inspiring journey bit of it with our viewers. Appreciate your time given to us. And I'm very positive, sir, that your thoughts and your perspective will be encouraging to my industry colleagues. I'm going to see you soon and with Shashank in Kanpur, sir. Till then, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Blessings.